We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Oh my goodness. I have the wrong brand. That shows you where I am. Josh and I are super tired. Welcome to Pod Maverick. The Dallas Mavericks just defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder 105-101 in an absolute rock fight of a basketball game that I'll just put it to you like this, Josh. I'm really glad I took the recap because it gave me something to do. Because this game was so infuriating, and I'm really delighted the Mavericks came ahead with a win.
If you weren't doing the recap, would this been a game you were like pacing in your room or like?
I would have tweeted
jittering
all game long like an angry shit, and instead I saved most of it for like the one. There was a possession where Lou Dort undercut Luka and nearly took his legs out on a jumper, and then shoved Kyrie into the crowd. Like back-to-back possessions. And I'm just like, fuck this. Like, what are we watching? What are we doing? And that was the only time I really lost my mind, like in game. But guys, I tell you what, the Dallas Mavericks came out and took control of this series, 2-1 lead. And I think sort of talking about this game sequentially will allow me to piece through my thoughts about the game at large. But the first half of this game, the Dallas Mavericks played really good defense. And outside of PJ Washington, the most just grindy, disgusting Detroit Pistons 2004 era offense. Oh my God. The Mavericks they shot under 40% in the first half. And I'm pretty sure what did they do for the game? They ended up 43%. So they shot significantly better in the second half, in order to get a 5-point boost in percentage. But it was awful. And we're sitting here watching the Mavericks they stayed ahead most of the game, almost all the game. The Thunder took a brief lead in the third, but the Mavericks just couldn't finish certain stuff on offense. And if you get let's just say an average game from Derrick Jones Jr. and an average game from Derrick Lively, this game is not close. It's just not close. And that says nothing to Luka and Kyrie, who went a combined 17 for 34, which is actually 50%. But for most of the game, each one of them in different stretches was pretty tough to watch. What did you think of that first half, Josh?
It was eerily similar to the first half and the flow of the game one of the series, where I thought the Mavericks defense, despite the shooting numbers, because OKC actually shot 52% overall and 40% from three in the first half. I actually thought the Mavericks defensive effort level was pretty good in the first half. It was just one of those cases where you can't expect a defense to continually execute perfection when your offense is just giving you nothing. And that's kind of what was going on. But the difference between game one and this game was that I don't think there was definitely some bad stretches, but on the whole, the first half I don't think was necessarily poor offensive execution, other than like guys just need to make the shots that they're known for making. Luka Doncic got the exact same shots in the first half that he got in the first quarter of the game 2 win, but this time he went 3 of 7 in the paint.
Luka was baffling.
He missed a lot of bunnies.
He was so pissed at Lou Dort that he was seeking out contact and almost looking for it, where he missed 2 bunnies right at the rim where I'm like, what is happening? And
he just never does.
I needed to calm down. Like, that was cool.
Yeah. And then, Lively was 1 of 5 in the first half. Like, if those guys made their shots normally, the Mavericks probably would have had a 10 to 11 point lead in the first half. Second half was better. Luka was 3 of 5 in the paint, 2 of 2 at the rim. And I thought played, it's kind of the theme of this playoffs. Like, you look at Luka's box score and you're like, what the hell? Like, how did the Mavericks win? Like, he had 22 points and he missed 10 of 17 shots. And it's like, he had 2 steals, including a backbreaking steal against the Thunder in the fourth quarter. That was literally a 4-point swing. He had 15 rebounds. He played pretty adequate defense when the Thunder, I thought, were trying to pick on him with their role players. Like, it is another example of the remarkable transformation that this team has undergone, where they are no longer a team that needs Luka to score 40 and the role players have to hit all of their threes. They just won a playoff game shooting 33% from 3, 43% from the floor. Luka shooting badly.
You see their free throws?
And they felt in control for most of the game. Like, the thing I kept watching throughout the second half was, I was like, why isn't the lead bigger? Like,
that's what I felt too.
So, like, this is kind of like the new Mavericks to a T, this game. Like, it's just, they win ugly, grimy basketball, and it's a little bit more consistent to win this way because, there's so much variance in the 3-point shooting, as we're seeing on the other side of it with Oklahoma City, and what they look like when they don't make all their threes.
Well, then you get to the second half, where the two teams exchange baskets to sort of open up the third quarter, only for the Thunder to go on an 11-0 run that was physically painful for me to write about. So, like, during my writing process, I take 5 to 7 pages of notes. That's why whenever dumb fucks pop in here, like, you didn't watch the game, and like, sure, Jan. I just write all things down that I see, and then it's just part of my process. That 11-0 run was so maddening because the Mavericks weren't stopping anybody. And then there's like a Josh Giddey. There was 5 points from Josh Giddey, including a open 3, which that is what it is. And then he waltzes to the rim from the right corner and just scores over Gafford. And that was part of the run. And they called a timeout. Mavericks called a timeout because the Thunder went up 5, I think, at that point. They get up by as many as 10. And then, of all people, to settle them down, Derrick Lively gets fouled on back-to-back possessions and hits 3 of 4 free throws. And then from there, the Mavericks just willed themselves back in it. The defense was on point again because, again, made basket. The Mavericks were able to get set. There's no cross matches. And they worked themselves back into the lead within 3 or 4 in-game minutes, where it felt like the Thunder were about to run them off the floor. The Mavericks punched them back so hard, including Tim Hardaway, of all things, making an incredible baseline steal and read. He hit a 3. That might have been in the first quarter. Yeah, that was in the steal. The Tim Hardaway steal was in the first quarter. Sorry, just plagued in my brain. And then the Mavericks will themselves back into it, where Tim Hardaway and Kyrie Irving are playing a little 2-man game with some nice action. Kyrie played point guard really impressively again tonight. Obviously, it was huge in that fourth quarter, as always. Really nice to see. But the Mavericks just came out and kept punching, but the Thunder wouldn't die. And so if you're a Thunder fan, you were probably watching this game on pins and needles, pretty upset. And really, both teams are bitching about the refs incessantly. And then you kind of go look at the box score, and it's, let's see here, 22 personal fouls on the Thunder, 16 on the Mavericks, but the Thunder also fouled Lively 5 straight times intentionally. So it's basically a wash on those fouls, and it's a wash on free throws, more or less. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets 10, Luka gets 10. It's right there. And so that to me is kind of a hallmark of actually a pretty well refed game, like at least a fairly refed game. I don't think that any team got one particular whistle. And then the teams entered the fourth quarter, and the Mavericks just closed them out. That stretch of Lively getting hacked starting just under 6 minutes, where he misses the first three or three of his first four. Kidd takes him out. Chet Holmgren gets an offensive rebound, and that's the only time the Thunder had scored during any of that hack a Lively nonsense. They put Lively immediately back into the game. They do it 2 more times, and those 4 free throws that Lively made ended up being the margin of difference of victory, which was pretty amazing. I mean, Kyrie Irving's kind of floating like 5-foot drive with 40 seconds left is what sealed the game. But Lively's play there in that fourth quarter was just so important, and I am really, really excited that he is on our team. So what did you think about the second half, Josh?
It was, agree with all those things. I thought I feel like this was one of the first times in the playoffs Kidd has trusted Lively down the stretch over Gafford. Lively played 27 minutes. Is that the most he's played in a playoff game? It is the most he's played in a playoff game. Wow. Which is funny enough, considering he was struggling so much in the first half. So one, that shows Lively's, resilience to able to keep his head on straight, because normally guys that young, and especially him, like where his role is to finish on offense, he doesn't really get other opportunities to do other stuff. Like, it's easy to let that seep into the other parts of your game, like rebounding, guarding, all that stuff. And it never did. His defense was on point the entire game for the most part, especially in the second half. Made his free throws despite he made more free throws than he did layups, which is pretty crazy because he's like a 50% free throw shooter. So
he's a 75% from the floor guy, and he's 5 of 17 from the floor this series.
But if you watched him on defense only, like, you don't see that ever creep into the other side of the floor. Like, and that's true. That's pretty crazy for a guy his age, and just add to the legend of Derrick Lively and his preposterous maturity. For
he was plus 16 after being plus a gajillion last game too. I mean, he's
very good. He's only going to get better,
man.
But can I say the second half, like, they did it again. We talked about it at game 2. Talked about it all through the Clippers series, where the Mavericks defense just decides, okay, for the next 4 minutes, you are not scoring. And when I say that, I'm not like being facetious. I'm saying they will literally not score. From the 8:13 mark of the third quarter to the 4:44 mark. So that's 4 minutes, basically. The Thunder made 0 shots. They went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 0 for 8 from the floor for a 4-minute stretch in the third quarter, when it looked like the Thunder were going to try to pull away early in the half. And the Mavericks went on that 16-0 run over like 13 minutes. And it's like, and then you follow that up in the fourth quarter. The start of the fourth quarter, the Thunder only made 1 bucket in the first 3 minutes. Like, so that's 3 minutes of 1 bucket, 4 minutes of 0 buckets. That's 7 minutes where you only make 1 shot, 7 minutes out of a 48-minute game. Like, eventually, like, the math, like, it's kind of just math. Like, if you don't score for 7 minutes,
you can't win.
You can't win.
Like, I nearly in my recap, which is kind of garbage, but that's just because I don't feel the best. I started writing one section where it was like, you cannot score second chance points if you do not get any offensive rebounds. And the Thunder ended up with 6 on the game. They had 1 until the fourth quarter. 1. The Mavericks dominated the just 15 feet and in. I mean, I was shocked out of my mind. Because I'm as a longtime Mavericks fan, my brain is just sort of attuned to one, like, when Dallas doesn't score, I can't get it out of my head. Like, oh, you know what? If they don't score, they're eventually going to give up the lead. And
because you've got PTSD from the last 4 years.
And that's just not the case. And I mean, in the fourth quarter, we got to be perfectly candid. We have to be honest here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got poked in the eye in the fourth quarter. Non-call. I don't remember seeing it happen, but they talked about it. He proceeded to absolutely die in the fourth quarter. Now, was it because of the eye poke? I don't know. I think he looked tired. He's everybody's MVP darling, and he gets these. our comments in the live kind of drive me crazy because I think they disrespect his game. He does not play an unethical game. He is not hunting fouls. He is simply incredibly balanced and incredibly quick. And he's getting these up and down jump shot calls and drives. Kyrie's first foul, like I remember when it was like a baseline shot from the left where it almost looked like a Kyrie shot, to be quite honest with you, where Kyrie fouled him as he, faded, like jump stopped, faded, and then faded out of bounds as he shot the ball. And Kyrie couldn't believe those. But it's literally what he does. Like if you hit somebody on a jump shot, you're getting a call. Drives, as in the NBA, like just this is how it works. They're not calling the sidling stuff anymore, which is driving Luka crazy because Luka gets Dort on his back hip and is anticipating contact. And even if there is contact, the refs aren't really calling it. And that's just the way the foul interpretation rules are going. And it's very different watching Luka try to get these calls. He's getting very frustrated. Some of them are calls, but they're not as clear cut as hitting someone on a jump shot. And so watching the Mavericks effectively stomp on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's ability to get, he was getting 14-foot jumpers instead of 11 to 12-foot jumpers. And they were just keeping him further and further out. I was really impressed with the team defense today. And this is the way Kidd has envisioned them to be played. He deserves all the props in the world for them committing to this game plan and sticking through it.
For sure. And Shai killed him in the first half, and he had 4 mid-range attempts in the first half. He had 7 in the second half, and he was 2 of 7 from mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
He was 1 for 4 in the paint. The Mavericks guarded him about as well as anyone's guarded him all season. And yeah, like maybe it was fatigue, maybe it was the eye poke. I mean, Luka is dealing with a long laundry list of
Luka's dealing with
everything.
We're going to get the injury report is going to be like legs. Yeah. Like there's not going to be
body.
No, and it's not even really lower body. It's kind of like Luka man boobs down. Everything is hurt because like when he fell down on that jump ball and he fell on the hip, I felt that in my back. Like that was brutal.
And we've talked about how limited he is and not trying to make an excuse. It's just kind of what's going on. So like, that's obviously that might've been a factor for Shai if he couldn't see well out of his eye, but either way, I thought the Mavericks in the final moments in clutch time also totally outplayed the Thunder. I mean, obviously that's how they won, but like there was nothing there's nothing that kind of maybe sums up these two teams where I know the Mavericks didn't make the playoffs last year, but Luka's been in the playoffs as a number 1 option more than Shai has.
Oh God, yes.
That's just a fact. Like this is Shai's first playoffs as the guy. He was only in it one other time, and that was that first Thunder team that had Chris Paul that was kind of just happy to be here, and he was not the guy running the show. Like Paul was still very much the lead guard on that team, even if Shai was, I think, averaging more points that season than Paul. He was playing mostly off ball. He wasn't the lead ball handler. So that comes into effect. And like Kyrie Irving has made a game-winning shot in Game 7 of the NBA Finals on the road. Like say whatever you want about Kyrie if you're not a Kyrie fan. That experience is invaluable. And I think we saw that down the stretch where Shai, the last 2 possessions where the Thunder legitimately had a chance. Shai had the ball on one side. I think it was the left side of the floor. And the Mavericks were shading towards him like they do. And Isaiah Joe was on the opposite wing. And the Thunder, I think, were using Jalen Williams to set a kind of flare screen to kind of act as a barrier to get Joe even more open. Like he already was open without that screen, but then they were setting a flare screen for him. He was open each time. And in Shai, first possession took a bad 3-pointer. Second possession drove into like 4 guys at the rim and got an offensive foul. And then on the other end of the floor, like you have Kyrie making that seemingly preposterous like left-handed floater in the paint.
So good, man. I'm watching it right now.
Control. Yeah. Like that's just the difference between these two teams. Like the Mavericks have 2 guys that have closed out playoff wins repeatedly in their history, and the Thunder are kind of doing this all for the first time. And I don't care what you say, like that's a factor. We can't look in numbers and data and say, yes, inexperience leads to you're down -3 points in the ball. I don't know what the deficit is, but it's clearly there and it showed up in the final minutes.
All right, we're about halfway through the show. Everybody who's here, thanks so much for hanging out with us live. If you are new to the show, and even if you're old to the show, go ahead and go down there at the bottom of the video and click the like button. Josh and I would appreciate that. If you're brand new to the show, consider subscribing. We go live after every game, and when the off season inevitably rolls around, we'll probably be doing at least one video a week, maybe two. Josh and I still got to figure that sort of thing out. And, you know, we also do a secondary live show where you can come talk basketball with me. It is an early evening tonight. I know I had said last game that I was going to try to take my kid to go see a movie, but that plan has fallen through. So I'm going to be here and we're going to talk a little basketball. So stay tuned after that, after this show for that show. It is the same stream. You don't need to do anything different. Those of you listening on the audio stream, please consider leaving us a review. I'm seeing more and more of those. Really appreciative of that. It's very helpful to Josh and I. And now we're going to insert some ads here for the audio stream, and we will be right back.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
You know, if I would have applied myself, I could have gone to the NBA.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. But it's just like, it's been done. You know, I didn't want to, I was like, I don't want to be a follower. Hi, I'm Jason Concepcion.
And I'm Shea Serrano. And we are back. We have a new podcast from Wondery. It's called Six Trophies.
Woo!
And it's the best.
Each week, Shea Serrano and I are combing through all the NBA storylines, finding the best, most interesting, most compelling stories, and then handing out 6 pop culture themed trophies for 6 basketball related activities.
Trophies like the Dominic Toretto I Live My Life a Quarter Mile at a Time trophy, which is given to someone who made a short-term decision with no regard for future consequence.
Or the Christopher Nolan Tenet trophy, which is given to someone who did something that we didn't understand.
Catalina Wine Mixer trophy.
Ooh, the Lauryn Hill You Might Win Some, but You Just Lost One trophy. And what's more, the NBA playoffs are here, so you want to make 6 Trophies your go-to companion podcast through all the craziness. Follow 6 Trophies on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Listen ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
Okay, quick shout out to some folks who have already left us some tips. Tuan, Tuan, with a really nice tip. I'm at a Mother's Day dinner because the wife is working her hospital shift tomorrow, but happy Mother's Day to your wives. Fantastic, gutsy win. That's correct. It is Mother's Day tomorrow. If you guys haven't gotten anything, or just pick up your phone and call your mom. She'll appreciate that, guys. Then we got another tip. Thank you to Chischaz. Lou Dort is flopping. Why is the NBA not addressing? Well, you know, we'll talk about Lou Dort here in a little bit. Shout out to Cowboy for leaving us a quick tip. We appreciate that. The Dallas Mavericks. Dallas may better place, but Oklahoma City took better shots. Also, Gafford did well staying out of foul trouble during the first half. He did. Yeah, he did. Gafford's another guy who I feel like is falling apart at the seams to a degree. The man keeps getting hit. Okay. What should we talk about for the rest of the show? Because I think we could go a lot of different directions.
I mean, the offensive rebounding advantage, the paint advantage was very evident in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Mavericks outscored the Thunder 52-38 in the paint. They had 15 offensive rebounds. Like, that's more like it, because they were actually losing. The OKC was getting more offensive rebounds, I think, in the first 2 games. So that was like a weird occurrence. But yeah, the big guys. I mean, everyone that played had an offensive rebound except for Tim Hardaway Jr. Not even trying to say them out. Just literally every single person that played for the Mavericks tonight had at least one offensive rebound.
which is crazy. I mean, there was like Kyrie Irving is 6'1.5", 6'2", maybe 6'3", whatever. And he had, how many offensive boards did he have? Irving had 2 offensive rebounds. Like, that's unacceptable if you're the Thunder. And they just, the Mavericks are exerting their physical advantage in so many ways. And the Thunder, despite having some physical players themselves, don't necessarily play that way. Like, Lou Dort can go get it, but unless the Thunder may be committed to playing more of the other Jalen Williams, Jay Williams, as he is in the box score, I think they're going to continue to get the crap kicked out of them on the boards. There's just not much they can do.
Yeah, like I said, they only play Chet and the other Jalen Williams. They never play 2 bigs at once. They basically, it's like the Clippers series all over again. Like, the Clippers play 1 big and 4 perimeter players. The Thunder play 1 big, 4 perimeter players. Like, say what you want, but like PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derrick Lively is just a bigger front line than Chet Holmgren's, Jalen Williams, another Jalen Williams. Like, just is. So they're just gonna have that advantage. And then Luka. Like, it's just funny because Luka is like the point guard, so sometimes I think we underestimate his size. Like, Luka's like the second is usually, sometimes he's the second or third biggest player on the floor in terms of both size and strength. Like, it's an advantage. It's an advantage, and they finally kind of flexed it.
Right.
Also, are the Thunder? I'm totally going off page here. I'm going into a different direction, but are the Thunder gonna bench Josh Giddey, or
nope.
They're going to lose this series because they refuse to send that dude.
What was his plus minus this game?
It was only -1. But
see, I don't think he was the problem this game. I don't think so. No. I thought he did what he was asked while he was out there. 13 minutes. He had 9 points. He attacked the mismatches. He doesn't help, but he's not the problem. I'm not. Last game, he was the problem. I think it was Tim Legler who said that the Thunder, after the game, it was the Mavericks attacked Giddey 7 times and scored 7 times. So that was the problem last game. Tonight, maybe it was still the case, but I didn't really feel like that. He needs the ball. Like, they just need to play him with more bench units because he needs the ball more. I mean, he's huge, but I also don't know. Like, what if you're not going to play him? Who are you going to play? Who is going to be the difference maker? If you're at home, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, and Isaiah Joe played a fantastic game, but Isaiah Joe is the specialist. Like, you're either going to play Wallace or you're going to play Wiggins. And Wallace is going to be amazing. Wallace, let's see how big he is.
He's not that big.
He's under 200 pounds. I'm sorry. I don't care how good a defender he is. Luka's gonna put him in prison. Like,
that's a big thing. Luka has the height advantage on just about every player.
All of them. Because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not 6'6". They keep saying it. He's not 6'6". Like,
even Jalen Williams is 6'5". He just has a huge wingspan.
Yes, right, really. So I'm kind of curious as to what if they're gonna move away from Giddey. Like, you can't play, like, Hayward's not it. And that those other guys are options, and I think they could work, but I don't know if you want to do it in a game 4 on the road. When did this is a way back call. Didn't the Mavericks switch to JJ Barea in game 3 of the NBA Finals?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so they switched the series was tied 1-1 at that point, correct?
Right.
Mavericks won game 2.
Because they had the crazy game 2 comeback.
Game 2 is the greatest game I'll ever have seen, ever will see, yada, yada, yada. Carl made that positional move from one of strength in 2011. I think if you switch now, you're kind of seeding something. The mental game. I mean, the Thunder are a young team, and this was the first game I think I've seen them look a little shook. They didn't look shook last game. They looked pissed because the Mavericks won on some hot 3-point shooting. We talked about this. But today, the Mavericks bullied them. And I don't know if you move Giddey. That's just my take, though.
No, I can see that for sure. I just don't know. And that's what we were talking about before the series was the Thunder's depth and how much better it was than the Clippers' depth. Like, we talked about the Clippers role players and how they just played so many non-offensive threats that the Mavericks could hide off of and shade their coverage and guard the paint. we're like, well, you can't. It's going to be harder to do that against the Thunder because Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and Lou Dort and other Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe and Cason Wallace. And so far, Mavericks role players through 3 games are significantly outplaying the Thunder's role players. And that was like the Thunder's biggest advantage in the series. So if they're losing that battle, they're not going to win this series if those guys keep getting outplayed by PJ Washington and Derrick Lively and Daniel Gafford. And even the guys on the Mavericks that didn't have huge box score nights, like Josh Green was very solid in his 15 minutes.
Well,
doing the little Josh Green things. And then Derrick Jones Jr., I think, had maybe the best 36-minute 3-point game I've seen from
1 for 10.
Yeah.
1 for 10. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I thought, I don't know, like it looked like in the second half, then again, maybe Shea was limited, but like Shea could not create separation.
I'm just not particularly interested in Shea being limited when we're watching Luka out there.
No, that's absolutely fair. It's just Jones. He is not getting around Jones. Like, and he's not creating a lot of separation, and it's in a lot of mid-range looks. And I know that's Shea's game. It's free throws and floater range and mid-range. But again, I've been saying this since trade deadline. It is hard to win games in NBA consistently if like the paint is just not available to you, and the Mavericks are not making the paint available.
So I want to talk about PJ Washington.
We got it.
Mavs Moneyball contributor, though, shout out Mike Tadow for never contributing anymore, posted a video on YouTube, or I'm sorry, on Twitter, of Derrick Lively running Chet Holmgren's ass all over the floor. And Matthew Phillips made a comment on that, and like, what do you make of that?
Are you trying to like get him? Are you talking about when he was like trying to avoid getting fouled, or are you just talking about in general? Like,
no, okay, I know what it was from. Sorry, This is slightly context free. It's when they're trying to foul him automatically, and this Mike video is of him it's like Derrick Lively running around screens. It's cracking me up because the Chet Holmgren's like chasing behind him. It looks like, and then he posted a Scooby-Doo video. That's what it was. Okay. What did I want to talk about? PJ Washington.
Yeah.
So PJ Washington through 2 games has scored 58 points. Is that right? No.
29 plus 27.
Yeah. Does that sound right? 56 points. I can't do math. This is how bad I feel today.
20. I'm literally opening
56 points in 2 games.
Literally opened a damn calculator on my computer and had to type that in.
That's how dumb we are. Here's PJ Washington somehow also took 23 shots. He was 11 to 23 from the floor, 5 to 12 from 3, 29 points. He did not. His first half game was so important to the Mavericks maintaining. Third quarter also did some stuff. Then he kind of died, and we don't. And the Mavericks still won. Like, PJ could have had 40 points in this game with the shots that he was getting. He was so valuable to what the Mavericks did offensively and defensively, where it wasn't just Luka exposing the Thunder's lack of size. When he does that little, they only did it twice tonight, I think, and I'm pretty sure either PJ got to the rim both times or scored both times, where they're posting them up at about 15 feet, and he just sort of backs down and then swoops towards the middle for a left-handed floater. And that is not really something that because I'm pretty sure he's being guarded by Shea for a lot of the possessions.
Who, PJ?
Yeah.
They're trying to, I mean, definitely last game. I'd have to rewatch and see how many times he was still on Shea in this game. But yeah, in game 2, they were blatantly just like, yeah, we're going to put you on PJ so that like Shea can hide on defense. Like they were not
like, are you hiding? Like, so not to
hiding.
be an asshole. And, you know, I really appreciate Gilgeous Alexander's game, but you know, what's the point of Shea scoring 31 if PJ Washington's scoring 27? Like,
I know. And Shea's the best steals guy in the league. So I think for the Thunder side of it, they're like, we're going to hide him on PJ so he can play passing lanes and roams. But that's like, I mean, I'll get into it now. Like I talked about it after the last game. Like, I'm going to double down on this take. Like, PJ Washington is not that kind of guy that you do that kind of coverage to.
No.
Now, I know the numbers say that's what you should do. I'm not trying to disagree with the numbers. The numbers say what they say. He's been shooting terribly in Dallas. His last 2 years, like 18 months, 24 months of NBA basketball, his shooting has like been weird, like very weird considering where he was in college and where he was his first 2 seasons. So I get it. But like, this is not Peyton Watson of the Denver Nuggets, or Haywood Highsmith of the Miami Heat, or name Derrick Jones Jr., for example, of the Mavericks. Like, name any other athletic, defensive-minded, offensively challenged wing. Like, that is not PJ Washington, despite what the numbers say. Mm-hmm. He is an offensively talented player. His jump shot is better than what his percentages were this season in terms of how it looks and his confidence level and what he's done in the past. And he's got more talent going around the bucket and scoring at the rim and posting up and doing like versatile things. Like, this is not...
The floater game is absurdly underrated. Every time he makes one, it's like, whoa, but he's good at them.
Yeah. So, like, yes. Is it surprising that he scored 56 points in two playoff games back to back? Yes. Is it like out of the realm of like, this is not like if 2011 Deshaun Stevenson scored like 30 points in a game. Like, he's not that kind of player. Like, he has talent and skill. And if you're going to try to hide your defenders on him and shade your coverage away from him, he has the talent to do this. And if the Thunder want to keep playing him like this and just hope that he misses, I don't know if that's necessarily wrong, but like we said before, we are in small sample spooky zone. Like, there's no such thing as like a large sample size anymore. It's the playoffs. Like, if they lose 2 more games, they're out of the playoffs. So do you want to bet on 2 more games that he's not going to be able to at least do this? And I think what's the point of this is Mavericks might not need PJ to do this for 2 more wins
and that's sort of where you circle back to some of the things that aren't making sense from this game, like the Luka offensive performance, not great. Not as bad as it felt at times, because he still made some pretty unbelievable passes. And obviously, when you grab 15 rebounds, it's not like he's rebound hunting like he's Russell Westbrook during his MVP season. Like, Luka can't really jump right now, and he's using his enormous frame to basically go get boards, which is such an undervalued part of Luka's game, in my opinion. So, yeah, like that was there's just things that are happening to where if PJ cools off, he only +5, he played 40 minutes. He's playing a lot of minutes. You assume somebody on the Mavericks might actually be able to pick things up. At least you hope.
Yeah. So. I mean, yeah, they need to get Luka. I mean, they got Luka good shots. I don't think he was, it was just a tough game. He was getting, I mean, that second half for him felt like freaking American Gladiators, like that.
Well, and let's just talk about that real quick right now. Like, I don't like talking about the refs. It's not particularly fun. Lu Dort stopped playing basketball during this game. He just did, and I'm glad it didn't become the story, because
he also fouled out. So
yeah, he did, but he should have fouled out in the second quarter with some of the stuff that he's doing. And I'm sorry, like, he's gonna hurt somebody with this kind of play. Like, there's physical play and then there's reckless play, and he was doing shit tonight that was reckless. I'm sorry, he just was. And I admire him as a basketball player. I remember hearing Sam Vecini talking about him as a college player. I'm pretty sure he went to Arizona State. So I've like followed Lu Dort's career on and off for the whole time that he's been out. He's really turned himself into a valuable basketball player. They say he's 6'4", 220. My ass, is that man 220 pounds. He is a defensive lineman build. He looks like Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs. And he just goes through people. And again, I admire it because he almost always does it through a basketball sense. But some of the plays that he made tonight were not fucking basketball plays. And I swear, if he hurts Luka, I'm going to be really pissed off. The NBA needs to control this shit.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with like players. Can players stop falling down so much?
Yes.
And I understand, and I'm saying players. I didn't just say Thunder players, because I understand that Luka also falls down a lot. Like, I don't understand, like, everyone just keeps falling down, and I don't get it, because, like, you know how you get hurt? You like falling down and banging your knee on a hard, like, the basketball floor hurts. It is not a soft, cushiony surface for you to fall down on. It is not a grass football field like some NFL teams play on. Like, I just don't understand why these guys are just like, yeah, I'll risk like bruising my knee and being hurt for the next 4 weeks, or twisting my ankle, or like giving my thigh a contusion so that I could like win this foul,
this
or
one
like get
possession, which might not get called.
Like, he falls over after every screen, and it's like, okay, like, I don't know. that just looks painful to me, is what I'm just going to say. I just don't know why they do that.
This
and he
is
fouled out
fantastic.
anyway, so it's not like he's getting the benefit of the doubt. So I don't even know what's going on.
Longtime listener, appear now, appear later, says in the comments, yeah, he's playing a little dirty. Those flops on screens are maddening too. That said, can we get him next year?
Oh yeah, he's the guy you hate. He's the guy you hate, and you love him if he's on your team.
Yeah, no, I really do admire him. I just thought like there was the back-to-back sequence where, because like Hubie Brown is sort of my bellwether for this, because he's the only one of these commentators that I've seen look around and basically openly question some of the non-calls going both ways, where he's just like, why is that not a foul? And it makes me laugh because it makes me feel sane. And we all understand, like, refereeing is an interpretation of the rules type thing. I mentioned it earlier as to why I think Shea gets calls that Luka doesn't. And so that's neither here nor there for the big picture, but it's just something I was sort of thinking about. All right, what else is there to talk about before we kind of get out of Dodge? Oh, the Josh Green game. So Josh Green gave up a 3 where I nearly threw something at my television, where he did the needless help thing in transition, where he kind of took 2 steps towards Shea. I think it was Shea. And he was on, I think it was Case and Wallace, which resulted in Wallace getting an easy open 3 because Josh Green is out of position. And I'm like, this guy is killing me. Because like Josh Green is not, he is a smart basketball player. I would argue Josh Green is too smart of a basketball player, which can sometimes hurt him. And then he comes back and does things for the rest of the game. So kid had to play him because he had to play him. Does things for the rest of the game. And in his short minutes, he only played 15 minutes. He was plus 15. Every minute he was in, the Mavericks went up by a point. He only scored 3 points. He only got 1 assist, 1 rebound. He got a steal. He did so many of the little things in this game, and I'm really proud of him for that.
Yeah, it made a difference. He once again got another offensive rebound. Like, he's just glued to like sneaking base. Our team's gonna like read a scouting report or write down their scouting report that they need to box out Josh Green when he's in the corner, because it's pretty hilarious how he keeps getting it done. But hey, if they're not going to pay attention to him, like, he's going to keep doing it. So keep going.
Yeah. What do you got? Anything else before we get out of Dodge and I head on to the other show?
No, I don't think so. If you can hear in the background, there's like 4 dogs behind me that are barking.
That's pretty good. I like dogs. I like dogs. Okay, team. Those of you who are here, go ahead and stick around because we're going to go from doing one show to doing the other show. Those of you who are listening on a podcast, please look to your feed probably sometime, I guess today's Saturday, so it'll be Sunday evening into Monday, where we're going to be doing Mavs Party. We're going to go hang out. Thank you for participating and watching this show, guys. We will be right back. Everybody tell Josh he gets to have he'll go edit and do some of the fun stuff for our site. Everybody be good, and we will talk soon.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring podcasts on the Blue Wire Network. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, then you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Wherever you are across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unified, UNIFYD, healing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.